Hello everyone, welcome back to Daybreak. I'm your host, Nicholas Sadowski. We have a fantastic show today, 2 amazing guests, and a great game, so let's get started. This is episode 5, and we are here in Bosse Studios. Mr. Bosse has been so fantastic and so generous with lending me his studio for these 2 episodes, and I'm very grateful that he's allowing me to do this. And shout out to the Bosse team who's behind the cameras. But we're going to welcome our first guest here today. My first guest is my productions assistant on the regular shows, as well as my brother, and just a fantastic person, great modeler, and has a lot of other great attributes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Owen Sadowski to Daybreak. Welcome. Hi. All right, so when you're doing, so we're going to talk about models here. So when you're finding models or looking for models, is there something specific that you look for?
Well, it depends. I mean, me specifically, I definitely find that the different companies that make models very different. Like each company has its own way of doing things, its own quality and style.
Mm-hmm.
So there are specific companies I look for and specific companies I stay away from. And I base that off of mainly the quality of the plastic.
Okay.
And there are many ways to determine if the type of plastic you're using is nice or is just a piece of crap. Generally, if I mainly make ships, like battleships, destroyers, things like that. So I'm looking for a model that is detailed, but also has a strong, dense, durable plastic.
Okay.
So that's very important to me. When it comes to supplies, I look for, again, it's the same thing with paint, it's the same thing with tools. If you're going to be using what I use is acrylic paint, which is water-based paint, you take basically like colored powder, mix it with water, and then you have the paint. I'm looking for a paint that can last a long time, and I mean by that, it doesn't sort of separate, like the paint pigment does not separate from the water,
Okay.
and that'll happen to a lot of paints over a long period of time. So you're looking for, basically, once you have been modeling for a long time, and I've been modeling for, I think, just under 3 years now, you learn what companies make high quality, high-end models, supplies, paints, and what companies don't do that as much.
All right. How can you derive, so when you were first looking at models, did you just like learn by trial and error what had good plastic, or could you derive that from like the pictures that you saw of the product?
Though the pictures, you can't really tell anything. I mean, when I first started out in Warhammer, which is a sort of sci-fi fantasy chess game where you build and paint the models yourself.
Yes.
And the company that owns Warhammer also owns the company Citadel, which produces the models and the paints and the tools, everything necessary for building the Warhammer universe of models. And when I started out there, like, Citadel makes some excellent products. It has strong plastic. The paints are I primarily use Citadel. That's mainly the paint I use. But when I ventured off from Citadel into what I do now, mainly, which is battleships, I went to a company called Revell, very widely known. It's one of the most prominent modeling companies. And it was, when you're just starting out, it's very difficult to tell if a model is nice or is sort of crappy because you haven't had a whole lot of experience. You can't compare. And of course, if you're just starting out, it's not going to be the greatest looking model because, again, you're a beginner and you're starting out and you still need practice. So it can be difficult to tell what is, high-end plastic and high-end paints and supplies. When I was just starting out, I had no idea. And I learned over the course of my sort of modeling career what companies I look for. Like when I'm going on Amazon and let's say I want to build a ship, I want to build a battleship, I will first type in the company that I want.
Right.
And then I'll type in battleship. And if it's not on Amazon, then I'm going to look somewhere else. I'm not going to go to the second company because, they're very different.
Does the quality of the plastic make painting it more difficult or anything, or does it not matter?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say painting as much. The painting part, when you're considering the quality of the plastic, when you're bringing painting in, that mainly factors into the order in which you build the model. So for example, if I'm building a battleship, there's a lot of different ways that you could go about doing that. What you could do, what I suggest, is that you paint the battleship, for the most part, the pieces by themselves. That way when you assemble them, for example, if you have a gun and it's overshadowing some of the deck, then you don't have to reach under that gun and paint it, because that can be tricky. It can ruin your brushes. But when I was starting out, I didn't know that. So the quality of the plastic, it's very important when it comes to building, of course, because when you're building, one of the main things I look for, as soon as I open the box, I look at the deck and I look at the hull. Most often there are two different parts, and if the deck fits with the hull with no gaps, no overlapping parts, you don't have to cut anything off, you can, that's one of the main, signs that it's a good quality model, and going forward it's going to be a pretty easy time putting it together. With one of the first ships I did, the USS Arizona by Ravel, I put the whole thing together before I painted it, so that was already difficult enough, trying to paint the deck with all the guns and everything. But it was, you can tell if a ship is just, if the plastic, it's sort of like half-hearted. If there's, when you're molding a plastic, let's say you have a ship and you have windows, and normally on a ship you would, there would be a hole there where they molded the plastic and they just put a hole there. If you have a low quality kit, sometimes, if you've ever used plastic army figures, you'll notice how there's like a mold line where they smush the two pieces of the two molds together and plastic seeped out.
Right.
Sometimes that gap gets filled where you want one, like if there's a ladder or a door, that gap gets filled by just excess plastic. That can be hard to get out. That's one sign of like a red flag. And then you have just generally, like, it's a bulky, sort of just fat ship. It's like the pieces are just very, I don't know how to describe it. They're just not good. You can tell because they're just thick and not accurate. So they just like, you would see a lifeboat from another ship that wouldn't even go on something. And it just, but I wouldn't say it's as important in terms of painting as it is building.
Okay.
The quality of the plastic.
Now I want to talk about your process. And so you brought a
F4U Corsair.
So this is something he did. And so could you describe how you came about this and what you did to build this and paint it?
Well, this is the second plane I've done. The first plane was a huge bomber from World War II, like this one. This is a late World War II plane. But the bomber I had to throw away because it was by Ravel and the plastic was not very high quality. You'd put it together and there'd be just gaps, and it was just a mess. But this model I came about, this is not by Ravel, this is by I don't know the name, but it's some acronym.
It's by a company.
It's by a company. And I came about it, must have been on Amazon or something, because I can go on Amazon and I just look for models, and if I like something, I may ask for it, or I may just buy it myself. This one I got for my birthday, I think. So I took it out of the box. It seemed to fit very nicely. What I first did was I sprayed it down with spray paint.
Okay.
And that was my primer.
Yeah.
So a very common saying in the modeling world is that paint sticks to paint, far better than it sticks to plastic. So if you're using a brush and you're painting, like for example, blue onto a model, and you're trying to do a primer with a brush, it's not going to stick very well.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever tried to take a brush. I don't know. You probably have never done this, but if you've ever tried to take a brush and like brush water onto the side of a car, you'll notice that it doesn't stick.
Right.
That's what happens to models.
I was going to say, yeah.
Because acrylic is water-based paint.
Yes.
So it's just colored water. But if you use spray paint, then you're going to be able to paint onto the spray paint, and it's going to stick, and it's going to be very nice. So I painted it was like a dark blue, a navy blue, and I didn't like it. No, I didn't not like it. I sprayed a varnish onto it, which is supposed to seal the paint in, so it's waterproof, but that kind of ruined the paint. So I had to go over and paint it with a brush. That took multiple coats because, again, it didn't stick very well. So I started with just blue, and then I did the underside, and that's like a light blue.
Yeah.
That was, and this is actually one of the simplest models in terms of the process, like in terms of what I had to do was not difficult. I painted it blue. I went over it with a shade, and a shade is like, it's the consistency of milk, but I don't know how to describe the color. So it's the consistency of milk, and it's like they're very different, lots of different colors. You can have brown, you can have black. And what I did with this one, what it does is it settles in the cracks, and it highlights things. So if you have a model, and for example, you'll see this line where the hot air is supposed to leave the plane in case the engine overheats. What you can do is you can sort of fill that with shader. You can just take a brush and dab it, and it'll settle in all the cracks. And if you have a darker part of the plane that is in a recessed area, it's going to highlight the parts of the plane that are raised, which are generally the details. Mm-hmm. And you want those to be highlighted because that makes the plane look more intricate and accurate. So I applied the whole thing with a shader. I also had to paint the pilot. I did that separately, which is kind of a shame because you can barely see him.
It does look good though.
I put on some decals, which are different than stickers. Basically, a sticker is like a piece of paper with adhesive on another piece of paper. Take it off and you stick it on, it's fine.
And stickers.
Yes. A decal, for those who don't know, is sort of like a paper with a adhesive onto paper that liquefies when you put it in water, and then you can slide it on and it hardens on the model.
Okay.
So I did that, and that was about it. I mean, it was a very simple. I did some detail painting like on the propellers, with the non-reflective area in front of the cockpit. As models go, this was pretty simple. I mean, and it's small. It's a plane. You don't need too much. With a ship like the Kitty Hawk, which I just finished, it's an aircraft carrier. That took a long time.
Yes,
that took me about a month, because not only did I have to paint the aircraft carrier, I had to do the planes.
Yes.
And there's 56 planes, very smaller than a quarter. Had to paint all of them, and it was excruciating. But it was. I started out with, it was the same process. You spray paint it, you go over with detail painting, decals, a shader, and it's done.
I did want to just before we run out of time ask. So you brought this plane because you said that this was your favorite model, and I've seen that you did the Kitty Hawk. The Kitty Hawk looks amazing, as well as you got a submarine, USS Arizona, as you said, USS Massachusetts. So, and those have intricate details, ladders, guns, and everything. This one, to me, seems, to someone who's not a modeler, seems relatively simplistic. So my question is, why is this your favorite as opposed to the Kitty Hawk or something else?
Well, the Kitty Hawk that's the thing with complex models. It is really detailed. There's a lot of parts, but it looks like somebody threw up a bunch of planes onto a ship. It's just very
busy. Very busy,
yeah. With a battleship, it's sort of the same thing. It looks like somebody threw up a bunch of guns and things onto just a ship.
That's
With
fair.
this plane, it's simple, but that's like cooking. When you're not, what is the saying? When you're not using a lot of ingredients, you can make those ingredients very high quality, very fresh.
It's a long saying.
That's the thing with this plane. When you're not using a lot of tools, supplies, and paints, you can really make those colors pop and make them very realistic, and that was my goal. And I think it's my favorite plane because in my opinion, it's the most realistic plane that out of all the models I've made.
That's very interesting, and unfortunately we just ran out of time, but I wanted to thank you so much because this is on. I do very much like this plane, even though it is very simplistic, and I've seen your other models and they look great.
Thank you.
And it is definitely a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Feel free to come back anytime. So that was my interview with Owen Sadowski, a modeling expert and a lot of other things, but we talked about modeling, and I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Now we're heading into our second interview of episode 5 with Payton Rogers. We'll be talking about singing and music and that general field. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Daybreak, Payton Rogers. I walked too far back into the chair. So Payton, we are in the same ensemble actually in this building. This is the room that we use to do things. I sit over there on the drums and you're actually where the cameras are. So let me just start by saying, one, I think you're a great singer.
Thank you.
And two, when you first came here and everything, what was your drive to do an ensemble and singing?
So where I'm from Raynham, there's a lot of music schools, but there's not a lot of places where you can be in a live band performing with other kids. And I feel like that's the thing that makes you better, is performing with a bunch of other people, and you just can't get that anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So it was really nice to be with so many, you and Kaylee. Kaylee's the guitarist. You're so good, and it just makes me want to work so much better so I can not let you down.
Well, to be fair, when did I start? I started in 2019, November, playing drums. And I think I'm okay. Kaylee is, who actually sits where I'm sitting, kind of, sometimes it's over here, plays the guitar, and she doesn't know. When I learned to play guitar, my dad always insisted that I played with a pick. I learned to not play with a pick, and he was always like, why don't you play with a pick? Kaylee plays rock songs and like everything with her like finger. I'm like, I don't understand how she's physically capable of doing that fast. But you're singing also. We do a lot of Paramore songs. And we're going to get to Paramore. That's not what it is. We're going to get to Paramore in a second with a game that we're doing.
Oh my gosh.
But you sound, forgive me, I keep forgetting the name of who's the lead singer of that
Hayley
band.
Williams.
Hayley Williams, okay.
Oh my gosh.
I knew it was similar to Kaylee, I just couldn't remember what it was. But your voice sounds very similar to hers. And so I like when we do Paramore songs, one, because it's a challenge, because it stresses, it's like trying to figure out the drum part is like challenging. But also because when we play together, it sounds really, really good. And I think a large part of that is your ability to sing like she does.
Thank you. So that compliment is probably the best compliment I could ever have, because Hayley Williams is like my mother. At this point, my entire personality revolves around Paramore. So
mine's Billy Joel.
For you to say that is, thank you.
Well, I mean it. What is it? We played, I think, Ain't It Fun, and I was listening to it, and I'm like, this sounds exactly like Payton. Like, it's like I was like honestly surprised. I'm like, wow, we sound really good. And the practices are actually pretty interesting because when I'm sitting behind there, I can never hear anything besides the drums. And so when I get to hear the final product, when I get to hear what everyone else is doing, it's like, it blows me away. Mm-hmm. So you sit in the middle of everyone, and you can hear everything that's happening, and you often I play loudly, and so you often cover the side of your head because I play loudly. So with the dampened drums, what is it like to be in a room with a bunch of other people doing songs live, recording it and everything, and like being a part of a group?
It's very electric because a lot of the times I'll be in the other room if we're recording in there, and the difference is that I can hear myself better, but it's just not the same energy.
Right.
Because when you're with other people, you're feeding off of them and feeling their energy, and it's just so fun.
Yeah, because you're in that room, and so when we're recording, I only hear you through these sound systems. But I remember when we were actually live, and when I could hear you, it just sounded like I'm part of something. It felt good. How long actually? So I started this ensemble 5 ensembles ago, probably. I don't know. When did you start doing this sort of thing?
I started taking singing lessons probably 11 years ago, but just with Bosse, I've been doing it for almost a year now.
Do you take singing lessons here?
No, I used to take singing lessons sort of all over the place, but just been training since I was like 6. So
What's paid off?
Thank you. It's been a long journey.
Well, so do you still take singing lessons?
I don't, because I feel like I'm just too busy. I'd love to, because the one thing that bothers me a lot about my voice is that I'm very good at finding my niche with like Fleetwood Mac, songs like that, Amy Winehouse.
You sound like the artists.
But the thing that really bugs me is that when we're playing those really hard rock songs, it's hard for me to really like belt it out. And I would love to learn how to train my voice to be able to withstand such powerful songs.
Yeah, when I started, I was coming from the jazz band, so I had to learn to actually, I remember Bosse said that by the time we're done with this, you're going to actually be playing loudly. And so now I'm actually like smashing the cymbals and the snare, which honestly I need ear protection for because I'm going to make myself go deaf. And probably you, accidentally. Collateral damage, I'm sorry. But this is a lesson in and of itself. So like I take lessons a half an hour before I come here. I take lessons in the room over, not in this room, but the one at the end. And then I wait a half an hour, then I come in here. And while that is a lesson, it's a one-on-one lesson, this is a lesson in and of itself because you learn to be dynamic and not overpower. Like when you're in a drum lesson, you're only thinking of the drums. When in reality, no one just plays the drums with nothing else unless you're like a street performer. You play the drums to back up the guitars and singing. And so it's important to do something like this to learn that. So I'm actually backing you up, which is fun.
Sometimes.
Sometimes I'm making you deaf. But with this, I think that you are learning how to carry a song like that. As we did songs and you were like actually like Starlight. You belted that out. Like it was really good.
Thank you.
When you look back as to what you were doing at the beginning of this, would you say that you've like learned a lot from this?
Yeah. So my first ensemble, we were doing these big songs. We did Misery Business by Paramore and Edge of Darkness by Greta Van Fleet, and they're these big songs. And I was sort of drowned out a lot because I felt timid, and I was like, well, I don't want to be that annoying person who overpowers everybody. So I just kind of, like I sang, but it wasn't really singing. I didn't have the confidence. But being in this group has given me so much confidence just in terms of singing in front of people. And yeah, I've learned that it's okay to want to be loud,
Yeah. My music teacher says, make loud mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's important to just be loud, and you definitely have done that very well, at least in the past ensemble. So we did 3 songs recently. We did Starlight by Muse, we did Rhiannon by Fleetwood Mac, and we did Drops of Jupiter by Train. Now, which one of those would you say was your favorite that we did, or you learned the most from, or something like that?
Starlight by Muse was really fun to do because I hadn't heard the song before. And it was one of those things where he was like, can you learn this by tonight? And I was like, oh, okay. So that song, as you know, there's so many different levels to it. And the volume levels, it's all over the place. Like there's this really cool dream sequency bridge.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know, it was just such a cool lesson to learn how to amplify your volume and then go all the way down to this sort of
it's dynamic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like a combination of like 1,000 different things in one song. You've got like the intro, then you've got the verse, there's a pre-chorus, then there's a post-chorus. It's got like 1,000 different parts.
He would be like, oh, take it from the verse or take it from the chorus.
And we all had different ideas of what that was.
Well, what is the chorus to you? Because,
exactly.
Yeah. So it was very fun.
Because like I write my own notes. I write the notes down. I write down where like how many measures everything is, and my notes never match up with what he's thinking or what you're thinking it is. And this song was just like, take it from the thing that goes this, because like we just don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It was definitely an interesting experience. Now that song was put up for a competition, which we have yet to hear the results about, and I'm very anxious. Now, how, putting aside the competition, I don't know why I just mentioned it, but putting aside the competition, would you say that this was definitely a song that improved your ability to sing and a lot of other things like that?
Yeah, definitely.
What about the song? What improved from the song?
So we do a lot of songs by female artists,
Mm-hmm.
and this was a male artist song, and it's really fun to sort of feminize it. I don't know if that's a word, feminize it, but
Sounds like a word.
put like my own spin on it, but in a way that's still, you know, respecting the original
Yeah.
song sound.
Yeah,
So-
I remember he said that, unlike a lot of other people, you embody the voice and the nuances of the singer.
I'm not a person who likes to make a big spectacle of myself, and there are I mean, I don't, and
But everyone else does.
I love artists, and I feel like it would be sort of wrong to tamper with the way that they did it because it's just so good. I don't feel like I need to change it.
So, we're going to start a game called Guess That Song. This game has gone over in different ways, but I figured out a way to do it well where it works well. The trick is to tailor it to the person, not to just to do songs I like. Because I like Billy Joel. I doubt anyone in this room, besides you, because I've just bored you with Billy Joel at this point, doesn't know any songs by Billy Joel, or songs that I would know by Billy Joel. So we're going to do songs that I think you would know. You know, well, you should know all of these. If you don't,
Okay.
then I'll be
Then I
disappointed in
suck.
you. Yes.
All right, good to know.
All right, so the way this works is I have the verses and one chorus because the verse of one song has the name of the song in it.
Okay.
But I have the verses of all the songs, and I'll read the first line of that song. If you can guess the song after that, you get 3 points.
Okay.
If you can guess it after 3 lines of the song, you get 2 points. No, sorry, 2 points, yeah. And then if you can guess it after the whole verse has been read, you get 1 point. If you don't
Okay.
guess it, you get no points.
I feel like you need a buzzer.
Yeah, you can just use the water bottle, just like.
I'm good. Use my imagination.
My Family Feud, just like. All right, so the first song, you should know this. Can't count the years on one
Oh,
hand.
still into you.
Yeah, dang it. Want to guess the band?
Paramore.
Okay. So 3 points. So this is actually the chorus of the song because the verse of it
Okay.
reveals the name. All your life you've never seen a woman.
Oh, Rhiannon.
Dang.
Fleetwood Mac.
Am I never gonna? I'm never gonna stump you, am I? Taken by the wind. I can just sing these songs. All right.
Do it.
This is gonna. I like singing, but I don't want to do it on camera. I would lose everyone who's ever watched the show. You're probably gonna get this one too. Far Away.
Starlight by Muse.
Yep. I made these too easy. I wanted to make it so that you'd know it, but now I'm making them way too easy. I'm going to do Billy Joel next, so I'm just not even going to look at these because you know the answers. You're never going to guess it, though. 9 o'clock on a Saturday.
Piano Man?
Damn. I can't... Anyone else have any other song suggestions? No?
No,
Genesis song.
that's impossible.
I know. That's the point. I want to make you lose at something.
Wow.
Can't think of anything by Genesis, dang it.
Well, you just told her. It's
I know, but she doesn't know the name of the song. We're leaving all this in, by the way, just the confusion.
Let me think of something. I can think of something.
Okay, you can whisper it to me when you know it. She keeps a Moe and a Shandon.
Rihanna.
No. Okay, she keeps a Moe and a Shandon in a pretty cabinet. Oh, hold on.
Justin Bieber.
No.
Let them eat cake, she says.
Let them eat cake, she says.
The French Revolution?
It's a song.
I don't know.
I mean, the French Revolution does repeat a lot, like a lot of pop songs. French, okay. She keeps
painful.
She keeps a Moe and a Shannon in a pretty cabinet. Let them eat cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette.
I don't know. You've Got Your Wish, I don't know.
Yes. Killer Queen by Queen.
Oh, okay. My mom's gonna kill me.
She keeps them away in a shanty in a pretty cabinet. Sorry. I listened to it this morning. Is this the real life?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yep. I don't mind.
Ain't It Fun, Paramore.
Damn it. I can't win at this game. I shouldn't have done Paramore songs.
It's too easy.
What's the song I wanted to do? Ah. I can't win.
I can.
No, I know you can. You just did. Now I'm mad at you.
Well,
You're dismissed.
thank you.
Oh. That didn't work well.
I'm too good.
Yeah, we're keeping all of this. None of this is getting edited out. We're keeping all of this in.